Hey, what's up, everybody? Nick and Michael here with Walk-Ins Welcome. We're so glad to have another episode coming to you. The countdown to 100 is well underway, Michael. I think literally it's in our plan at this point.
We're going to hit it this year. I think we're going to hit it in about a month. But
we're very close.
But we're super excited to have another interview to bring to you guys today. And this was really cool because we are talking to the crowd right now that's currently working for a medical clinic and is considering the idea of owning one, but is terrified to do it.
To step out on your own.
They don't want to step on their own.
The biggest fear every business owner goes through is letting go of that one door because you can't quite reach the other one. And that's where we are.
Exactly. So we have on today someone who did that, currently in the middle of it, right? Brand new company. So we are with Rob Gray today. He owns NAOS Physical and Occupational Therapy. It started in 2018. He came from, I would say, corporate world, but a larger physical therapy company and started his own. Has a couple of kids. We're actually, full disclosure, he's in my referral group, so I've been learning about him for 2 years now. But Rob, welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Awesome, man. Say hi to the Walk-Ins Welcome family and tell us one thing about you that nobody else knows.
Oh, man. I'm a pretty open book, so I don't know that nobody else knows.
There's something. There's something in there.
Or surprising.
Yeah, surprising, whatever.
I have a phobia of mayonnaise. How about that one?
Well, you sound like my sister, man.
Yeah, she does.
She is weird, scared of some mayonnaise.
I am.
Is it the texture or the flavor?
I don't know what it is. I've been that way. My mom says it was the only thing she couldn't eat when she was pregnant, so that's what I'm blaming it on.
It's down to the foundational level. Let me ask you this: if I grab some eggs and some oil and set them near each other, is that too close?
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. I love every ingredient separate. It's just when you put them all together, I get a little hinky. If you add other things to it and call it something different, I'm fine.
Okay, all right, spicy mayonnaise. Let's go.
There you go.
It can't,
right.
you can't
Awesome.
say mayonnaise. You got to call it aioli or something like that. I don't know.
I know how to call it. Here's what we do. We add some spices to it. We call it ranch dressing.
There you go.
90%.
That's perfect.
All right, look, we're going to move past the mayonnaise and the dressing. We're glad to have you on the podcast today. I'm going to kick it over to Michael for the vast majority of the interview because I know that y'all know each other really well, and I'm going to interrupt and probably have a story because I always do. But Michael Ray, kick her off.
Yeah, so reason why I wanted Rob to come on is that, I met Rob, I guess, maybe a year after you started NAOS, and you were in the the very infant stages of a company, right? And the story behind why you're doing it was really fascinating because we've had lunch over it before. And then the challenges that you face. And so I was like, this would be a great podcast episode because I know there's someone out there that needs to hear this.
Right.
And at the end of the day, starting and running your own business is not pie in the sky, wonderful colors. There's a lot of challenges that people don't talk about or they've forgotten about because it was such a long time ago. And so part of this interview today, I want you, we'll talk about the beginnings of NAOS, but also what was going through your head? Why did you do this? Why would you step out from a secure position and go into the unknown, right? And see what happens. So let's start there. What was the driving factor of saying, I'm ready to start my own thing?
I worked at a company that I enjoyed working at. I enjoyed the environment which I was treating. I got to treat people the way I wanted to treat them, one-on-one. But reached a ceiling where I was working my tail off. I didn't know how to work any more hours than I was, and it wasn't enough financially for my family, and then some things within the company were changing that I don't want to say I wasn't happy about, but I didn't necessarily agree with, and I wanted to leave. I didn't want to work there anymore, but I didn't want to work for big corporate. I very much dislike what they do and how they do it, and we can get into that further. But so I didn't want to work there. I didn't want to work for a big corporate entity, and I said, well, maybe I can start this on my own. Sat down with somebody who kind of put some of my fears at bay, and my wife and I talked and prayed about it and made the decision to give it a go and go out on our own with the rest of with my in-laws and my parents also in support, it was felt like a no-brainer.
Well, let me just tell you something right there. That's not normal.
Get the support.
No, I'm not even talking about your wife. Like, typically your wife, you're not going to do anything that she's just going to constantly nag you to death about. But to have your in-laws and your parents and everybody, let me tell you what it sounded like in my world. And God, I hope my mom's not listening because I love her to death. But it sounded a lot like, well, I sure hope that works for you. You know what I'm talking about? Rob, did you have anybody? Because you said you had the support, but you also did the ones who were faking their support. You know what I mean?
There was no fake. My father-in-law started a business, and then through some federal regulations and crap that happened in the 80s, had to declare bankruptcy, closed that business, went back to school, ended up starting a totally another business, and because he'd filed bankruptcy. His wife had to be on the line, and they had to be on it, and it ended up working out for them really well. They own a financial advising planning company here in town, and are very successful. And my father-in-law had been there, had done that, and he'd honestly probably wanted me to do it before I did it, but he didn't want it to be his idea. Right. So they were very supportive. My parents were a little bit more cautious, I guess. But when I sat down and explained the X's and O's to my father, who's been in executive leadership in different architecture firms, he understood and they were behind it.
So I'm curious, time frame wise, from the point of view, because I know a lot of people do different things when they decide to start a business. Some kind of start the business at night, to do their 9 to 5, and then from 6 to midnight they work on their business that they're trying to grow, or they cold turkey it. I'm out here next week, I'm starting there, and we're going to get the ball moving. What was your transition plan? Like, how did that work out?
It was probably around a month. I mean, it wasn't long. I didn't want to be one of those people. I mean, and not that it's bad, but in our line of work, I don't want to burn bridges, especially with those people. So I didn't want to start my business behind their backs, in the sense of I didn't want to start seeing people outside of work behind their back. And I didn't want to do all of these other things either. A lot of it, too, I mean, if I started trying to get credentialed with insurance companies, they would have found out about it. So I got another job working home health care, a job in which I could, spend some time at night. And it was a completely different environment. It wasn't, outpatient orthopedics, which is what this business does. So I wasn't in direct competition with the other company I was working for. So I got a different job that I could build this business at night, I guess you could say. And I did that for another 9 months before we moved into a physical address, and I quit doing that completely.
So let's make a note. About 10 months of transition, right? Because a lot of people think, I'll just get a loan, open a building, and people, if I build it, they will come, which doesn't work unless you're Chick-fil-A. And then, but no, seriously, for those that are listening, it's not flipping a switch and it works. Like, there was transition. You had to grind, per se, with another job to get this going in the right direction before you could actually make the full switch over.
I want to add one other layer to that.
Some of that,
there was a level. Sorry, go.
Sorry, some of that, though, was my own apprehension and my wife's own apprehension about is this going to work? If I had to do it over again, knowing some of the actual medical support we were going to have, I probably would have gotten a loan sooner than I did and opened a physical location sooner. But I don't want to take any time, take back from that at all. My time spent in home health care, because going into housing projects and into Section 8 housing in not so nice areas of our community was very eye-opening and an experience that I wouldn't take back for anything. But if you took that out of the equation, I wish I'd gone into it, because I think I lost a little bit. I lost some patience and lost a little bit of ground by not just immediately opening and being available to dentists and other physicians that were used to referring me business, and then I disappeared almost.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
If that makes sense. So it ended up being a little bit of both.
Well, I was going to add earlier is that during that transition, it sounded like one of the key ingredients was keeping your integrity intact.
Yes. Yeah. I'd watched too many people and heard my father-in-law's had people start businesses behind his back. My dad's had people start businesses behind his back, and you hear about it in other situations. And I didn't want to be that. I didn't want, my faith is really important to me. And unfortunately, when it is, not only are you judged, but your faith is judged. Jesus is judged. And that weighed on my mind in my decision to not do that to my previous employers.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. So started out, you're in a company, you're working, you're starting to see some chinks in maybe the way you would do things differently, the way things are handled maybe doesn't line up with the way you would handle them. And there's this seed planted of, hey, there's probably an opportunity for me to step out on my own. You make that step with the blessing of your family. How do you start that up from let's just say a marketing perspective? How did you hit the ground running with clients? How did you get your patients through the door?
Well, I had a client base of probably 20 patients that saw me regularly that paid me out of pocket.
Okay.
That was a base to start, and I'd been seeing some of them. I've been seeing some of them for 6, 7, 8 years at that point, and they were just very supportive. So I had that I knew could sustain me for a period of time until we could get going. And then I had my main referral source. I had one jaw-specific dentist or TMJ sleep medicine-specific dentist here in town who said, I want you to start your own business, and I will send you a lot of patients, and I will send you a lot of business. If you're going to start your own physical therapy business, it's still in today's day and time, you've got to have support of previous patients, and you've got to have support of some people who are going to refer you business. To just start cold turkey is without any prior relationships or anything like that is very difficult. I know somebody that's done it, but it's a very tall order. And then, so much of medical marketing, or at least physical therapy marketing, a majority of our patients come from physicians, dentists, chiropractors, nurse practitioners, and you still have to put boots on the ground and meet people face to face, make relationships with them to get patients. So that's the route I went from the beginning, and it's worked out well at this point.
Well, and something unique to you for sure is your specialty around the jaw, because I know you push that a lot in our referral group. Hey, get me in touch with your dentist, because dentists need a place to refer to. And then I even have a personal testimony from my sister-in-law that went to you, and she went from not able to eat to eating. So that was a big deal.
Yeah.
It was so funny because they live down in Troy, and they had come up to our house or something, and I literally watched her take an hour to eat a sandwich. I was like, "Are you okay?" She said, "Well, I can't really chew." Like, why can't you chew? And she started explaining, and she's like, "Nobody down in Troy will touch my mouth, like they're afraid to." And so I know somebody that's willing to try, and so we got that connected, and it's been a very good thing.
And now she won't keep her mouth shut.
Well, yeah,
I'm
right.
just kidding. I don't even know your sister or sister-in-law. I'm
Yeah,
just kidding. I don't know her.
but that's the thing too, because like talking about finding the people that will refer you and stuff. Like in your specific situation, like dentists are super great for you because they're already checking people's mouths and looking for things, and they don't want to deal with the therapy side of something where their jaw's having issues.
Right.
But it's true though, because a lot of our clients or who listen to this podcast, they're a lot of walk-ins, right? And then you're a referral-based system. Like it's difficult for people just to walk in because the insurance won't necessarily pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's situations that the state law allows us to see patients without a referral, and but in most situations, insurance companies and the state, if there's an injury, require us to have a referral. I will also say the other thing that made me feel comfortable about leaving and starting on my own was that I did have a specialty. Your specialty physical therapy clinics are the ones that seem to be having the most growth and the most growth potential right now. And I needed something that would separate me, and I needed something or a demographic where the referrals weren't coming from people who had tons of therapists hitting them up for referrals already. And I've always loved treating jaw-specific patients, and it kind of became a niche. And then I decided to get fully certified in it upon the request of the dentist I mentioned earlier. And at the time when I was doing it, there was nobody else in the state that was certified and was doing it. So that also helped me make my decision to leave, because we had a niche that we could fill that nobody else had.
So a few things here for the marketing perspective. Again, I want to unpack it as cleanly as I can. Left started. The things that you tapped into is you had an existing list of patients that were willing to continue to do business with you.
Yes.
You also had an establishing a network of people that are willing to refer you business, right?
Yes.
So identifying who those people are that are willing to build that connection with you, as we all understand that I know you, I like you, I trust you. And then, of course, refer those people to you because they trust your ability to perform. That's huge. That's identifying how your marketing and your network's going to work. Good. All right. So what would you do differently if you were to start today, knowing what you know now? You're 4 or 5 years in. What would you go back and say, besides buying a building or leasing a space? Outside of that, I'm talking about just from a business perspective. What would you do different?
I would say take out a larger loan to have a larger marketing budget, but getting a loan as a startup physical therapy business is a very difficult thing anyways. There's a lot more risk in physical therapy than there is in other medical, doctors, dentists, things like that. They're easy to get loans because they know it's going to work out. Physical therapy is a little less so. And an existing relationship with a friend that is a bank president allowed me to be able to get a loan. So while I would say if I could have gotten a larger loan to have a marketing budget in the beginning, that would allowed me to build a website sooner, capitalize in some digital marketing sooner. That's about the only thing I would have done differently. Because I didn't want to grow.
Not preempt that answer.
No, that wasn't my goal.
No. I understand that completely.
Rob, I've asked that question probably a dozen times on this podcast, and 100% of the time, not 95%, like 100% of the time, people would have said, I would have started marketing sooner.
Yeah. Get that ball moving
Every
quicker.
time. I know in the financial world, they say, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the next best time to plant it? Today, right? Because you can't go back and grow it. You can't
Yeah.
go backwards in time and grow it.
Yep.
And no, that's not a shameless plug for us. That's not what I'm trying to get at. What I'm saying, though, is there's
I
some
know it's
strategic things that people are afraid to do
Yeah.
because they don't understand it. And that is a key ingredient to success. But I want to transition just a little bit. All right.
Okay.
So we've unpacked where you started. We've unpacked how you started. And now I want to talk about where you are today and where you're going. So you started with 20 clients. You don't have to give massive details, but maybe percentages or something like that. Where are you on client load now, and where do you expect to be in the next maybe year to 2 years?
And what do you think like some of your next key hires will end up being? Because I
Yeah.
know a lot of people that when they're in that second and third year where they've kind of figured out their processes, now they're trying to figure out who should I expand my payroll on, because it's always scary because now you got to keep the commitment going, right? And
Right.
you want to make sure that hire is actually helping you grow and not just keeping it stagnant.
There you go.
Let me preface that by explaining kind of one of the key differences that I felt strongly about setting up in my business from a personnel perspective. I have friends who, and these friends helped me make the decision as well to go out on my own. I have some friends who are physicians, and when we were talking about everything that was happening at my previous place of employment, they were shocked as physicians to hear that even though I'd been there as many years as I had, that I was not a limited partner. I didn't have a eat what you kill financial situation, which is you make a percentage of what you collect, both from insurance and copays and whatnot. They were shocked to find that out, and then upon talking to dentists and lawyers and other people, they were shocked to find out that I did not have that. And when I started thinking about it, it was shocking. I've been there 8 years. I'm one of the top producers in the company. And I was not getting a lion's share after being there as long as I was of what I made. So I made the decision when I started this company that I wanted to provide an avenue for physical therapists to come work for me where they could become a limited partner and, upon meeting certain criteria, become a limited partner and make a percentage of what they do, of what they bill. Because if I can do that, then I can keep excellent therapists here and not have them go out and start their own business, because they can have their own business within my business.
Right.
I didn't want to just create a better environment for patients. I wanted to create a perfect or better environment for physical therapists, because I felt like that was important. So back to your question, now that I've prefaced that. So my wife is an occupational therapist. She works here, and she's part-time, and she specializes in myofunctional therapy, and we can get into that at some point if you want me to. We recently hired somebody to also work part-time but do what she does with adults. And so that's a recent hire that we have that we want to fill up, but she's filling kind of her own little niche within ours. And she was going to start her own company and still is considering it, but I'm hoping that we develop enough of a relationship and she likes being here where that develops and she wants to stick around and build her own business within ours. The second hire, the very first hire I made from a physical therapy perspective was a physical therapist assistant, because I have a limitation. I can only see as many patients as I can in a day, and I don't want to see patients every 15 minutes and manage 4 people at a time like they do in other big box operations. So I hired a physical therapist assistant. And most people hear physical therapist assistant, they're like, oh, so, physical therapist assistants were originally created to be an extension of the physical therapist in the same session. So I see somebody for 30 minutes, and then I tell my physical therapist assistant, Kellen, I want you to do this, 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 and this for the next 30 minutes with this patient. And then I go to the next one. In corporate world, the therapist does the evaluation, and then they move that patient to an assistant for several visits, and then they see that patient again. It was never meant to be that way. It was never meant to be that way. So I wanted to do it the way that it was meant to be done, and do it in a way that patients felt like they were actually getting additional benefit by having a physical therapist assistant doing some additional work with them, as opposed to they weren't getting me every time. So I hired Kellen second. Where I would like to go growth-wise, though, because Kellen and I are pretty darn busy right now. I mean, I could stand a few more patients, but not many. The thing that gets us right now is people getting sick and work things coming up and whatnot. But what I would love to do is build our marketing. Build our marketing profile. I would like to do more digital marketing, spend more money on marketing so that we can get significantly busier, hire another physical therapist in the next 12 months, and get that person full. Beyond that, it would be a long while before I would want to hire somebody else. I mean, unless it just necessitated itself. I would be happy getting my wife busy, getting the other physical therapist that does myofunctional busy, and getting the new person busy. But I feel like we can achieve all three of those things, getting everybody that works here busy and hiring somebody and getting them busy, hopefully in the next 12 months, 12 months in another quarter, let's say, 16.
Well, and that goes to that idea that a lot of companies get in trouble with. They try to out-hire the growth, and then all of a sudden they have too many people on staff that aren't busy enough.
Yeah.
And then you're not making money anymore.
I've never done that.
Yes.
We've experienced this, and so it's a real thing, because you're like, oh, we're growing, we're about to hit capacity. Let me hit that higher, and then the capacity all of a sudden doesn't get filled like you thought it was going to. It wasn't as predictable, right? And then you're like, well, I don't want to get rid of the guy because I like him, but I can't afford him anymore until he gets busy, and that's something too that we've all learned. Very rarely is there somebody that you bring on that is motivated as the owner themselves. So at the end of the day, like a lot of people that you bring on, they're there for a paycheck, right? They're not there to grow their paycheck unless they're a salesperson. But if they're like, they want that paycheck, they like the comfort of it. They don't want the idea like they have to go out and find these people to increase or keep their paycheck moving. But the owner gets it. And so like you just run into this little, it's that every company goes through it, where like I gotta stress here for a while until I'm confident that I'm what's coming in is going to be coming in regularly. Then I can expand again. Like we all have these moments of stress that we have to go through. Then we hit a growth point. And it doesn't matter how big or small you are. It's the same. It's very, very rare for a company to say, I have 100 employees with the perfect amount of work for them, and we're making a ton of money, and I'm not having to think about it, and you don't have to go up or down, and I'm happy.
Right.
That doesn't exist. So.
No, you're spot on with that.
And I'm hoping the way that we've structured things will alleviate some of that, because if you know you've got an opportunity to have your own business within mine, and at some point if you build your own patient clientele, build your own, manage your own schedule, go out and do some marketing for yourself, one day too you can have a large percentage of what you bill, and have your own business within my business without having to, go out and buy a brick and mortar or lease a brick and mortar space and start your own business from scratch and do the branding and do everything. I've tried to make things to where like highly motivated people will be drawn to work for me. And if somebody's not motivated, then I'm also of the perspective, if you're not motivated within my business to improve yourself, improve your paycheck, then you can go work someplace else.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, I hate to be that way, but as a business owner, you want people that that are going to work hard and are motivated to work hard and intrinsically motivated to work hard. I don't want to have to jump through hoops and give you candy and do all this and do all that in order to make you want to work hard and want to help your patients.
I tell you, understanding somebody's motivation is like the key, one of the biggest keys to success, because if you understand what's motivating them, because rarely it is just pure money. Like there's some other side to it. Like money gets you to and we all know, like there's statistics on this. Like there's a number that everybody can get to and say, I'm okay, but it's not motivating anymore by getting more money. Like it's nice, but it's not like I can go somewhere else and make similar money, but I'm more motivated over there because of X, Y, Z.
Well, you know what that transition's called, right?
What?
That's the transition from success to significance.
Yeah.
That's the transition point. You're no longer trying to become successful. You're at that point looking on how you're going to make an impact.
Yep.
Well, with that, we're already at 30 minutes, Rob. So here's what I want to do. I want to make sure that I gather the takeaways and put them out there, and then we'll say goodbye to you. Here's what I have. Have integrity during your transition. This is if you're going to step out and start your own thing. Have integrity in your transition. Build or at least access to your network of people that will support you, believe in you, trust you, and pour into you. Get access to capital. Make sure that you have access to capital so that you can have the funds to go out and do the right thing. And then understand what the right thing is for your business by having a plan of differentiation. What makes you different, better, and unique than the other people that are out there in the same space. Is that about right?
It is. I neglected to mention one other thing that's vitally important. And I didn't mention earlier, and I feel I should have. The very first hire I made was somebody to manage my front desk because I was doing everything. And what I learned where I used to work, the person at the front desk makes the initial contact with your patients. They call them to schedule them. They meet them when they come in the door for the first time, hand them their paperwork. They're the ones collecting money. Having somebody that does an excellent job and understands how to speak to people in both a professional and uplifting way is invaluable. Jan at my front desk is invaluable, and I think Michael.
Janet is awesome.
We need to get Janet on the podcast.
I've met Janet a few times. She's pretty legit.
So I'll tell you, Rob, we wrote a whole chapter in our book, Walk-ins Welcome, called The Front Desk Advantage, because we believe that is the most important position in any practice.
And almost anyone we've interviewed, they talk about, like, if you can't get your front desk right, it's very hard to get anything else right.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah. We believe. Thank you for bringing that up too, because I mean, it just constantly, we're constantly hearing that. We agree with it highly. Like, it's just part of it, and we've seen companies, we've personally experienced where companies, like, their front desk is not the way it should be, and it doesn't matter how great the marketing is, those bad reviews will come and slowly degrade that company.
That's right. And they all sound like, we had a good experience, but the front desk person was rude.
Yeah, it was always like, they're rude. They didn't listen to me. I felt like they didn't care or whatever. Yeah, it's real.
So, Rob, thank you for taking some time and pouring into our audience today, man. It blows my mind every single time how fast the time creeps up on us.
Yeah.
But man, I love the idea behind NAOS, physical and occupational therapy. I love the story behind it. I love the passion and your own personal journey that you bring into that. And I just want to thank you for pouring into our audience today. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome. I enjoyed it. The best medical professionals want to share. They want to teach. They want to give something of themselves. And
Heart of a teacher.
It gave me an opportunity to do that, and I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
That's a good way to close that out. Thank you, Rob, for coming on today. Thank you, audience, for taking a listen, and we will catch you guys on the next one.